BuzzFeed brings up a good point. After hundreds of employees were arrested in an ICE raid, the bosses went home without a charge. Unlike the immigrants detained in a massive sweep this week, their employers weren't criminally charged or arrested. It's unlikely they'll face prosecution. Why? Shouldn't they be? Shouldn't our laws say if, okay, we have a problem with illegal immigrants in terms of displacing low-level jobs. But more importantly, beyond that, I think we have a cultural problem where millennials are entitled and lazy and just don't want to work. Not all of them. There are millennials who work. I'm just saying there's a problem with people I know who are like, I refuse to work a low-level job. Here's the thing. I think college is a huge problem. We'll get into this. I have another story from Vox where they say the Mississippi ICE raids expose the biggest problem with U.S. immigration laws. They ignore the high demand for workers to fill low-skill jobs in America. Yes, there's a demand because from what I've seen, there are many millennials who are like, I refuse to do that kind of work. But you have to start somewhere. And it's almost like the first question I want to go through is obviously, why aren't the employers being punished at all? They play a role in this. If you can't find someone to work these jobs because it's low skill, you got to pay more money. And that's going to be better for the economy. I'm not an economist, but the general idea seems to make sense, right? How do you increase wages? Demand. So here's the thing. You got to start somewhere, right? And a lot of young people refuse to start somewhere. I think of it kind of like, you play a video game, you get really far, and then you die, and you lose your save, and then all of a sudden you're like, I just don't want to start from the beginning. There are people who look at low-level jobs or low-skill jobs as beneath them, and they refuse to get started. So I'll tell you what happens. You need that experience. You need to develop. These are a lot of jobs that young people normally took. That way, when you grow up, that you start somewhere, and you build from there. But now we have these people who are 22, 24, who are getting out of college and being like, I refuse to work a low-level job. Okay, I understand that you went to college, but you have no experience. If somebody asked me, can I work for you? I'd say, what's your experience? And if they said college, I would say, that's not experience at all. You have none. But anyway, we'll get into that. The bigger question is, why aren't people being charged for employing these guys? Or these people, I should say. So BuzzFeed, of all outlets, actually digs into this and brings up the interesting question. Before we get started, though, let's head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do is just share this video. And I'll make one little funny point I tweeted about this. I love how there are people who accuse me and others of being grifters. And let me just get one thing straight for all of you. If my goal in doing this was money, I wouldn't dedicate all of my time with no days off for years talking about politics, which gets demonetized relentlessly and can get you banned. No, I'd focus on Minecraft or Fortnite. And I would dedicate 7 days a week, 6 videos playing video games in which I'd make a lot more money and be a lot safer. Now, the reality is, I talk about these things because I'm passionate about it. I find these stories important. They're interesting questions. And then I say, hey, the content is free. If you like it, you can support my work. No, I'm sorry. That's the opposite of grifting. That's me saying I'm doing this no matter what, with or without money. Anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest. But you don't have to donate to me. It's not a huge concern. Just share the video. Let's read. BuzzFeed writes, while hundreds of suspected undocumented immigrants were arrested Wednesday in a series of workplace raids that split up families and left communities terrified, their employers went home as if it were any other business day. Federal authorities haven't said whether the employers of the 680 people detained in Mississippi in one of the largest raids, I get it, BuzzFeed, please, will face criminal charges or even fines for hiring the workers, but the likelihood of their facing prosecution is slim. The ICE operation hit 7 work sites. If you're not following the story, the quick gist is one of the biggest ICE raids ever, 680 people arrested, 7 locations, around 100 people per site. Mike Hurst, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi, declined to say if any of the employers would face charges for hiring undocumented workers, citing an open criminal investigation. The employers are still not in the clear and could be subject to fines or charges in the coming months. But data shows the likelihood of prosecution is extremely low. They say an analysis by the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse at Syracuse University found that during April 2018 and March 2019, only 11 employers, individuals, not companies, were prosecuted for hiring immigrants without proper documentation. During that same period, 120,344 people were prosecuted for illegal entry or illegal reentry. Totally different issues, BuzzFeed. We're talking about employment. So I guess, I don't know what else. I don't think they're being charged for working. They're being charged for being here illegally. Since criminal penalties for employers were first enacted by Congress in 1986, few employers have ever been prosecuted. The track analysis said, fewer than 20 prosecutions have taken place against employers in a single year, except for brief periods under President George W. Bush and the first year of the Obama administration, the data shows. That's because U.S. immigration laws restricting the hiring of undocumented workers are heavily skewed in favor of employers, and in most cases, they are never charged, said Muzaffar Chisti, director of the Migration Policy Institute office at the New York University School of Law. It's only a handful of employers who have gone to jail. Federal law doesn't penalize employers for hiring undocumented workers, he said. Instead, it goes after the employer for not checking people's documents or knowingly hiring unauthorized employees. I call it the knowingly loophole. It's the knowingly that provides the employer a major defense in such actions. You can always play dumb. Essentially, the argument is these employers just say, we didn't check. It's not our fault. We didn't know. They lied. They said they were citizens. Well, if in some circumstances these people are working under the table, perhaps, well, then you've got a big problem. And many of these undocumented workers are under the table. In this instance, perhaps they weren't. But I got to say, I'm really, really confused by how employers get away with this, because don't they have to pay taxes? And if you're paying taxes, don't you have to fill out the forms? I don't even know how it's possible to have someone without paperwork working for you, you're paying taxes, claiming to be a citizen. How does that even make sense? They need a social security number, right? Do they give you a fake one? Maybe they go and get fake ones? I have no idea. But I will say this. A lot of people on the left don't seem to understand the problem that we're facing when it comes to illegal immigration and our workforce. Low-skill jobs are being displaced. We also don't have young people working jobs anymore, or at least it would seem that way. Like, I'm not pulling up the data and stats on whether or not 16-year-olds are working at McDonald's. I got a job as soon as I turned 16 at a fast food restaurant. It was not fun. It was tedious, and I did it because I was 16 and I needed a job, and I made some money, and then I eventually quit. But now what I'm seeing is a lot of entitled DSA type, progressive leftists with undergraduate degrees who have never worked a day in their life, claiming to be the working class, and you're not. You're the pseudo bourgeoisie. It's a new class that's in between the landlords and labor. I guess there's technically the merchant class. There's like that pyramid or whatever. The point is, these people are doing labor, but they're displacing the demand, which means there will come a time when we don't have the workers. And the companies say the only way to get the chicken processed is to pay more money. And that will cause a dramatic shift in how our economy functions. Perhaps it will be a bad thing. I don't know. What I can say is two problems. Supply and demand drives the market. And our supply is seemingly infinite if we keep having people come here without proper documentation and without limitation. There will never be a demand, and there will never be good wages for low jobs, because a business is going to say, hey, here's $10. And then people are going to argue over how low they go. That's the point of the minimum wage. You can't do that. But in the end, we need the value of labor to be higher, which only demand can really accomplish. Not completely. I'm not an economist. The main issue I see, however, entitled millennials. So the first question I'll ask as we kind of wrap this segment up and move into my final thoughts, why aren't the employers being punished? Maybe they will be, but as we saw from BuzzFeed, it doesn't really happen that often. Well, maybe it should. Maybe that's the problem here. I watched a documentary once about how some of these companies encourage undocumented workers to come and then tip off ICE on purpose so they don't have to pay. All of these people got arrested. Guess what? No payout from the employer. They're not going to have to worry about paying any of these people. They're gone. They've been deported. Now, they are going to lose money in trying to find new people, but that's a different issue. In the end, they just got free work. I don't know exactly how it works, but maybe we should just say, how about you get in trouble when you do this, and it is on you to make sure the people who are applying have social security numbers and IDs. Now, here's the thing. Maybe they did, and maybe that's the problem, and then I can understand that, and maybe that's the bigger issue. Maybe that's what I'm missing here. Outside of all that, we get the point. I just want to stress, working in a chicken processing plant, yeah, people should take those jobs. There are so many people who are doing nothing. And I'll say this too, to the young men who are sitting around playing video games and feel lost, You might not want to do it. It may feel beneath you, but I assure you a good day's hard work is great. Get a job at the lowest tier. Just go do something. You know, I always say to people, like, the millennial generation needs, we have a problem on two sides, a lack of responsibility and a lack of purpose. And that's how I see kind of the culture we're forming. You have young men who have nothing to do because we're wealthy. People sit around playing video games. It's triggering dopamine. It's fulfilling. And, you know, what else should I do? I don't want to go work at McDonald's. Maybe you need to. Maybe humans need a function, even if it is tedious. I don't care if you're going to work at McDonald's or Starbucks, or if you're in your backyard building a shed. You need to get up and go do something. To quote Jordan Peterson, find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it. And perhaps that's working a really crappy job that you don't really need to work, but you should, because being in a workplace allows you to socialize. You'll meet new people, you'll experience new things, and you'll build something from there. You're not going to start a video game with god tier abilities and stats. No, many games you start if you're very weak. But over time, your character develops and becomes stronger. And by the end, you know, like an MMORPG, all of a sudden, you're a badass. That's how the real world works too. Life imitates art, imitating life. If you start somewhere, in a few years, you will be end game tier, top tier, one of the best. On the other side, we have these privileged urban elites with degrees who are like, I refuse to work that job. I'm above this. No, you're not. You're not above it. No human is above anything. I'm not above working at McDonald's. Nobody is. You do what you can do and you work from there. And if you're sitting around dumping, complaining about your student loan that you're not working, find anything to do. That's like the big thing. People need purpose. And without purpose, I feel like Americans are losing their minds, and this is part of that problem. The immigration stuff is all part of that problem. So I bring this up because of this story from Vox, where they claim there's a high demand for low-skilled jobs. There is, and this is a cultural crisis among millennials and just people in general who are refusing to do low-skilled jobs when they don't have any other skills. I'm sorry, your interpretive dance degree, I'm glad you learned about this, but it's not a skill you can use in a workplace that's going to translate into value unless you go and teach other people interpretive dance. Now, hold on. Maybe once you've learned interpretive dance, you can actually put on a show and charge people to come and see it. That's starting a business, and maybe that's not beneath you, so go do that too. Just do something. There's too much ideology and activism because people are bored and life is boring. So they're playing video games or they're going out and joining ridiculous political groups for ridiculous reasons. Here's my advice, man. If you're not doing anything, whatever it is you're sitting around not doing, do something else. Even if it's working at a processing plant for a low wage. I guess the real conundrum is multifaceted. Because these companies hire illegal immigrants for low wages, the wages are being artificially suppressed. If they weren't hiring these people and they were being punished, wages would be higher. And then you'd have people saying, well, I think it's beneath me, but hey, man, pays $20 an hour. I'll take it. Then I can play more video games. Instead, they pay the bottom of the barrel and you can't compete with that. So maybe something needs to be done. Maybe the employers need to be punished. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment will be at 4 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you all next time.